All right. Hey, folks. It's great to be back again. Happy New Year, at least for us from MeteorJS community and the TWIM team. So, and by the way, if you don't know what TWIM is, and we've used that contraction a few times now, it's this week of MeteorJS. And this week we have a number of stories that I think you're going to find at least useful, but somewhat interesting. And there are some stories this week with regard to changes and updates in MeteorJS. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a year in review. And I think that's what some of you have come here for, to hear what our thoughts are in terms of what has happened in the space over the last year. Interestingly enough, also, you may have noticed that we haven't been around on a regular basis. We normally do a weekly podcast, and we haven't been doing that since, I would say, probably November-ish. We've had 2-week hiatuses here and there, and we're going to get into a little bit towards the end of the program as to why that is. But I got to tell you, part of the issue I've had has been about $13,000 in unexpected bills. I had a little bit of a scare earlier on this December. I don't know if I told you this, storyteller. And we can go to two-shot if you want to at this point.
Lou.
Yeah. But, before I go on with that and go into that any further, I should say that this is episode 107 of This Week in MeteorJS, a weekly newscast of the MeteorJS podcast. My name is Alim Gafar, streaming to you live from New York City.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dvorak, coming to you live from Prague, Czechia.
Jan Dvorak is also known as Storyteller. You'll probably hear me use either Jan or Storyteller interchangeably here. At 107 episodes, I think most of you know who we are, who have been here. But if you're here for the first time, then that's the story there. So, $13,000 bill. About early December, about a month ago, I had a little bit of a scare. Couldn't breathe properly and so on. My wife calls for an ambulance. And the emergency services come to my house. You know, they sit down, they're checking me out and whatever. And they're not comfortable, so they want to make sure that I get to the hospital. And there's already an ambulance outside. And it's embarrassing for me. I'm like, I've told them I don't really need to do this, but they're insisting. So I said, okay, fine. We have insurance. Get into the ambulance and get taken to the hospital. And at the hospital, they put me through a battery of tests. They give me chest x-ray. They do a few other tests. And I'm sitting there till about 4 o'clock in the morning. This happened at 10 o'clock at night. It's now 4 o'clock in the morning. My wife's still with me. She's got work at 7 o'clock in the morning. And they finally come over. They say, well, we haven't really found anything, but we'd like you to stay overnight if that's okay with you. And I said, can I go home if I want to? And they said, yes. So the reason I say that is I think that had I stayed, the bill would be a lot larger. Now, I get this bill back and we have insurance, but our deductible is like $4,000, right? So it's just been a little bit of a nightmare for a few weeks trying to figure out, like, what do we owe? What are we going to have to be responsible for? And in a lot of ways, that has taken my mind out of this whole project that we do here. And Christmas was coming. So there was Christmas to deal with, and then there was New Year's to deal with. And anyway, long story short, we finally have our settled piece of the bill. It's still a lot of money, but it's not $13,000, but it's not $4,000 either. It's in between there. And it's just kind of crazy that a ride from my house to the hospital, which was like about 15 minutes, which I could have done in a car, and then the time in the hospital, I mean, like the emergency room doctor that saw me for about maybe 20 minutes and charged me over $2,000 for his visit. Don't we wish as developers we could get $2,000 for half an hour, right, of time?
Yeah.
So, but I don't even think that he's getting that money. I think that's the hospital billing on his behalf. So, anyway, it's just a really strange and interesting world that we live in, and I've never had that part of the experience before. So that was a little bit of a shock to me, and anyway, now I'm in a better headspace. I know what I owe. It's not $13,000. I don't know about you guys, but to me, $13,000 is a lot of money for a set of services that I don't think really should cost that much. But having said that, here we are. So that is my little bit of a rant on the American healthcare system, Jan. And with that, if you want to add something to it or so on, otherwise, you know what, it might be better for us to just get right into the news and do what we normally do.
Yes, absolutely. So let us skip. Well, let's go with this view. It's been a while since I've played with this.
Yeah.
And let's see what we have in the news section. Mostly security related, so not a happy topic. Kind of to start of the year, or in this case, to finish the year. And we start with the big. I think everybody who uses React has heard about this. There has been multiple security vulnerabilities. We've already covered some of them last year, but there have been more afterwards, which is kind of normal. Once you start, digging, you find a big one, and then you start digging around, you find a few more. So there were a few more. So there was another patch released for React, and this, in particular, this is all related to server components and all the server rendering stuff that the React team has been pushing. So that's where these things come from. And make sure you're up to date on React, especially if you're using server-side components. If you're not using server-side components, then there isn't really that much of a rush to update. But at the same time, updating really doesn't affect you in any way. So if you want all the juicy details, we've covered like the big ones last year, and this is just a few more on top of it, but not as big one as the previous one. So that's when it comes to React. And sadly, we had another technology that we are very much fond of that had an issue.
Are you talking about MongoDB?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is what I think some people are calling the Christmas surprise, the Christmas present that we didn't want to hear about. It's titled here in their blog post, December 25th. I think it was actually published on the 29th. But here's sort of the rundown on things.
Yep.
MongoDB said that they found what they call a zlib compressed protocol header length error that might allow uninitialized memory heaps to be read, and which basically means that you can get an unauthorized client to read some user data or some privileged data, and that's a problem. That's a big problem. So the article that they've got, kind of runs through a timeline that they said that they discovered this as part of their routine audit. And as they were going through this, they found this on December 12th, right? December 14th. Between the 12th and 14th, they worked to try to validate it and to develop a fix. On the 15th to 17th, they developed a rollout plan to make sure that they could deploy this safely and at scale, and started patching all the servers in Atlas. Atlas is the cloud-hosted environment for MongoDB, the one that MongoDB runs. And by the 17th, at about noon, they completed patching. I don't know if it's noon or if it's, by about noon, they finished patching the majority of the fleet. And by the 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they had some maintenance windows. It is a feature in Atlas, and that allowed their customers to control when these routine updates to Atlas happen. So they were proactively getting in touch with their customers and saying, hey, we've got this thing happening here. We have this vulnerability. You should allow this to go forward. And by the 18th, they had finished patching all of Atlas. By the 19th, they published the vulnerability as part of the standard CVE process. And on the 23rd, they updated and let people know through the MongoDB community that this was an issue. Okay. Now they have this article and it's out there. But what's really interesting, and what really is the thing that kind of takes the cake on all of this, is someone went in afterwards, a security expert from another firm, and decided to create a repo exploiting this vulnerability and put it up there. And that was sort of the Christmas surprise. It's as soon as they read it, they did this. They kind of like put it out there, and I'll be a little defensive on the side of the person that did the exploit, because MongoDB said, look, I mean, there are a lot of instances out there on the community servers. We let people that know, but we don't think it's going to be that much of a problem. They kind of said that, and I think this was sort of like, really, here's the exploit. You figure it out for yourself, whether or not you want to do it.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, it's a challenge accepted, exactly. And so, that gets out in the wild. For a few days, nothing happens, really. It's out there. But other people report on the fact that here's this vulnerability, MongoBleed, and that there is this repo where you can actually, and by the way, it's sort of like, it was sort of shocking, right? I mean, people are clutching their pearls. Oh my, you are publishing the very exploit that can, make people's databases vulnerable. This is not a good thing. And I think there's something to be said about that. There is an article afterwards about this, by the way. So I think the next link that we have is to the CVE record itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this is from that guy's, from Akamai. Akamai has an article that tries to explain the whole thing.
Yeah, they have also very nice graphs and flows to understand. So check it out.
And then of course, somebody else popped in with a very, very double pulsar, I think is the blog post on Medium, right? With a very, very provocative title: Merry Christmas Day, have a Mongo security DB incident. And, and said that somebody from Elastic Security decided to post an exploit on Christmas Day. And here's the exploit. And it's, by the way, and then they said that they were able to validate it and turn out that there was that exploit. They could see it. And, one of the things they just point out is just like how much of an issue it is doing something like this, just like dropping it there and then leaving it, because the exploiters now have a tool that they didn't necessarily have before. They'd have to figure it out, but it's been figured out for them. It's been given to them, and there you go. So this was, again, the exploit was written by somebody at Elastic Security. I don't know if Elastic Security has anything to do with Elastic, which has Elasticsearch, which is in a sense a competing product, right? They have basically a database, but it's I don't think that this is necessarily a good best practice. If you do run into an exploit in MeteorJS, talk to the team, coordinate what you're going to do, and then if you are able to validate it and so on, and maybe what you want to do is have a gated rollout to who can get access to the code that you produce to validate that exploit, because it could be used in malicious ways otherwise.
And it was used. There was some allegedly some hacks of some gaming studios and some other places. I have two really big things to kind of push, because to release something like this is usually a forceful method if the company is refusing to fix the issue, right, or is just annoying about it and not really doing anything. So that's this is the way how you kind of force them to do it. So I'm not necessarily about this, but there was likely no need for it because MongoDB fixed it, did the releases. But of course, there's always a lag before the self-hosted instances update that. So, the timing of it, so soon afterwards, plus, in the middle of holidays, which,
almost guarantees that people are not going to be around to respond.
Yeah, so I think that this was like very in a poor taste or a total lack of kind of the world around you, and that there's other things going on than just the tech world and GitHub. So that's kind of my big pet peeve about this. Not necessarily that it has been produced, but the timing is of importance, and communicating with people on that. Speaking of timing, there is another security vulnerability fix that has been this is in Node.js. There's usually if they have like some security issues, or that they have like the monthly security releases. This was originally slated for December. And then it was delayed till January 3rd, then till January 7th, then January 8th, and now latest till January 13th. So this one is kind of getting away from us.
This is almost the opposite
yeah
situation, right? Which is, you know, you had a very fast release of a security issue once it was discovered. But now what you have is you've got a security release, but you're not releasing it because they're acknowledging the holidays and other things, right?
Yeah, so that was the initial thing. Initial, it was supposed to be December 15th.
Yeah.
And there are 3 high severity issues, 1 low severity issue, and 1 medium severity issue in this. And it impacts nodes 25, 24, 22, and 20. And the rest of, they don't really care because that's end of life. So it was originally December 15th, and they, compared to the previous one, decided, okay, this is probably not a good idea to release it over Christmas, because usually the pipelines, for these updates take a while. So we'll release it, in January. But there have been some updates that they have postponed it. They had actually a CI issue that prevented the release on the 7th. There have been found a few more issues, so they are releasing it or kind of pushing back the release so that they can make sure that everything is available. And this is, let me just quickly, because this like really I just checked it out before coming on, because I was expecting this morning when I checked this thing that we are going to have it, and I'll have to create a PR for Meteor.
Okay.
So they want to release it on Tuesday rather than Friday, so that it's available across all time zones, specifically for the Asia Pacific region during working hours.
For those of us that are uninitiated, is it normal for them to do a release on a Friday, or like are they breaking a tradition by doing it on a Tuesday?
No, I don't think. I think it was actually usually beginning of the week.
Okay.
And I think since they didn't manage to do it on Wednesday originally, then it postponed to the 8th. Then I think somebody was smart and realized, okay, this is, you're getting into Friday, and that's just not going to really be smart enough to get it, as fast out there between, the corporations and other things. So I think this is actually very, when it comes to the timing, well done.
Yeah.
As long as we don't really know what are the security issues, and there are no known at least big exploits or anything like that. So from that point, but for example, if if somebody came out now with a repository that would be exploiting one of these issues, then I think it would switch to immediate release, no questions asked, and that's kind of how it should be. So in this way, I would say big kudos for thinking beyond just the technical and immediate, and thinking about how to properly time it. And this has been something that has been the issue of releases, when, where, how many. Something has been a very long ongoing discussion within Node, and I'm actually I would say very happy about how they have kind of progressed. And this is, again, years of discussion and practice and working with the industry.
Well, it seems like getting the releases out for any bit of software is more than just on your own whim. It really reminds people, I think, just how much of a collaborative effort it is just to make sure that things get released, especially in an open source community. All right, really cool. Is there anything else you want to add with regard to this security release?
No, keep your eyes out on it. I will create a PR once it's out for Meteor, so it will be in the latest Meteor as well. So it will be 3.4.
Okay, so I guess this is back in my court now.
Yep.
So we're getting away now from security and sort of looking broadly at some of the things that have happened over the year. And we're going to talk, I think, a little more about that after we're done with all the news. But there was an article. I don't know whether or not you'll agree with the article on what it finds as the general themes and ideas, and maybe the most interesting or representative articles regarding JavaScript and JavaScript world for what happened this year. But a couple of things that they point out that happened in this article, I thought was, on tack, but maybe not entirely. One is the impact that AI has had on programming community. I think one of the things they said in it is that, besides there was a general fear that it was going to take everybody's jobs, and now we're learning that we can actually use it as a tool to enhance our jobs. And I think that that's been understood, but I think the fear part of the job thing is still not something that folks should. I don't want people to be fearful unnecessarily, but I think that we can't avoid the idea or the thought that it is going to have a significant impact on work and how we do things. By the way, there's a story today that I heard about Tailwind. We could probably talk about that later on.
Yeah. I think probably for next time for predictions, and we might touch on it as well.
But Tailwind going into back anyway. My point is that the way it's hitting right now, the impacts on people's living is going to be significant, and we're not going to see how it all gets restructured. But there are going to be people that win. There are going to be people that lose. It's not everybody, but I don't necessarily agree on the premise that it's sort of a very glib premise that we found out that it's not really going to get rid of jobs. It's going to help us. I don't know. But one of the other themes that they talk about, and I believe is a real theme, and we'll talk about that a little more, is this notion that there has been a movement towards more simplified JavaScript programming. What I mean by that is a lot of the frameworks that we use to help us build websites and web applications have gotten really complicated. They've gone from things that were relatively simple to hide some complexity to allow us to work productively, to becoming instruments of their own, which you have to spend a lot of time learning and becoming experts in order to use them effectively. And they make an observation that this has sort of led to a rise in simpler frameworks like. And by the way, I mean, this goes back a few years. When React and Angular, when Angular became complicated, right, and had its four-way, data model, right. React came out, it was far simpler. And then React started getting crufty. And then Vue came out. And then Vue started getting a little, it started growing a little more. And then Svelte came out. And, we see this over and over again. And now they're talking about HTMX and Hotwire as those things. But the big points that they make here, and a lot that I agree with, is that some of the things that if you didn't pay attention to it and you didn't notice it, ECMAScript 2025 came out this year, and it brings with it a number of changes. All of us should spend some time getting to know those. There's an article that they point to, the 10 JavaScript concepts you need to succeed in Node. And it's not simply about general concepts, but it's really understanding how the engine works and how your data gets processed and how it actually executes and so on. I think that's an article that in the article that I'm talking about here, there is a link to that article, and it's worth taking a look at. Including, by the way, there's another article that's called The Intro to Nitro, the server engine built for modern JavaScript. And Nitro is what was it before? Was it SpiderMonkey or something like that? That used to be the engine, or no, it was
no.
I don't remember what the engine name was, but it was. But in any case, the thing that actually runs and executes JavaScript, Nitro, which is very efficient, very fast. It's made your code even more performant. Again, it's one of those things that we should spend some time getting to know. Now, there is another article I haven't read yet, and I want to read, which is called Intro to Nest.js, which is for server-side development on Node.js. It's apparently something that's that goes hand in hand with Nitro. It handles the architecture, and it's become, as they say, the gold standard for serious scalable backend engineering. Have you played with it? Do you know about it? Because
I've heard about Nitro, I think, if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm missing something. And it was actually in a context that regular devs really should not be touching it. That this is more for the frameworks and it's like really super deep in things. So unless you are yourself dealing with some edge cases and issues, you should not really be needing to even know it exists. I've heard about Nest. Nest a lot. It's actually seen it around as well, and I will have to kind of probably look into it because I've seen it mentioned a lot in corporate jobs filing. So probably won't be able to get away from that one.
So it seems that the general trend, and a lot of these articles, they address or they're indicative of that trend, is towards the simplification of how we build applications and getting away with it. Now, there is one article at the very end of it all that does a comparison. And I think we've talked about this before, which is sort of how the different frameworks out there, the most popular ones, React, Vue, Angular, Svelte, are reaching what you might call feature parity. They have a lot of the same capabilities. They have a lot of the same features. And they've been influencing each other in terms of, somebody comes up with a concept and an idea, Signals, for instance, being one of them. And then the others start picking up and doing their own implementation of that in their frameworks. So again, that is something else that you might want to take a look at. So really nice to look at, really good. I think they make a good argument. I'm not buying into the AI argument entirely. I think it's still early days too, to kind of figure out where that all plays in. And the last thing is they do point out that that there's this columnist at InfoWorld who has written an article, a column or whatever you might want to call it, which is just say no to JavaScript but not so much don't use JavaScript, use TypeScript. And so this one is for our friend Kelly out there, because I think that's a validation of something that he believes that TypeScript does make JavaScript development better. And there is this columnist that is saying, just say no to JavaScript, but really it's not JavaScript. Just go to TypeScript. Your developer experience is going to be much better. Your programming experience is going to be much better. And they're kind of wondering why more people, probably like me, haven't taken the leap over there. In any case, those are some of the things that came in. I thought they were useful and interesting. And
I just want to pick up on the issue of framework complexity.
Mm-hmm.
And recently on that, well, not recently, but Theo on YouTube has had, I'd say, really interesting takes on this.
Okay.
And he pretty much was saying, what we wanted to do, let's say, is like 100% with the web or like, given all the range things. And when we started, like, say, 10 years ago, what the standards allow us to do was like 20-30%, and then the frameworks came and got us like to 80%, and then eventually to 90%. The standards picked up as well, and now the frameworks are working to solve, say, like the last few remaining percentages of like edge cases and very specific things. And for me, that and as a result of that, it pollutes kind of the simplicity and everything, because a lot of the edge cases, it means things have to be complicated. You have to put in a lot of extra code, a lot of, say, if statements, for example, and so on. And that then kind of pollutes the simplicity of everything. So it's very much about, again, picking up the right tool, and then also maybe saying, or learning to say no when it comes like to feature requests. Then I think that's kind of one of the big things that am still really learning to say is no, because when suddenly somebody comes and say, hey, I would like, I love what you're doing, I would like, for it to do this and that. There's kind of excitement, somebody's using what I'm doing and I want to satisfy them, and all that stuff. So that's I think that maybe instead of kind of with the server-side components, instead of maybe building like an extra or like additional library on top of React, it just kind of got merged into that, and it has its own reason, everything. So I think that's something that's has to be watched. The creep, mission creep, feature creep. And I think what's also kind of happening, thankfully, with a lot of the new frameworks is that you kind of build on top of, and that's also the reason why they are so lightweight, of the new existing standards that have been implemented. And I think we'll kind of see that. So that will be kind of the bane. That will be a bane of, I think, the older frameworks trying to catch up with all of these new adjustments without sacrificing a lot of backward compatibility. And we kind of see it, I would say, at least for me, today in React when it comes to signals.
Well, I would say if you're starting a framework now, right, you don't have all the baggage of all the history of the things that the browser couldn't do 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 10 years ago, which many of these other frameworks were trying to solve at the time. And you're right. I mean, now that the standards have improved, and also JavaScript, right, the language itself, that, this, those were unsolved problems back then. I agree. And now where the supporting technologies, JavaScript or the browser or the runtimes themselves have taken care of it, then there's no need for some of those features. It's really hard if you're a legacy framework to then turn around and say, all right, do I shed all these things and trim down, or what do I do, or just leave it there and then move forward? I think the observation is really keen, and the thing I take from that is being really selective and knowing what to put into a library and what to keep out is probably going to be the most challenging thing for development teams that are building applications or libraries or tools for developers outside. Because, which edge cases are the most meaningful? I mean, which edge cases are too edge? And how do you decide what those are going to be? I think those are going to be really, really difficult decisions for teams to make as they go forward. Yeah. All right, listen, guys, if you've been having a good time with this and you've enjoyed the work that we've been doing, hit the like button and also subscribe. That way you get to know, click the bell. That'll give you a notification. and hopefully you'll stick with us for the rest of this. We have an announcement, though, about what the rest of this is as we go forward in a little bit. But for now, I think we need to just hit the MeteorJS news, right?
Yes, that's correct. We'll be hitting the news once I click through here. So we have 3 quick news from Meteorland. First things first, we have in the Meteor community packages release of the 4.7 SCSS package version 5, which is a SaaS package, so that SaaS works properly in your Meteor. Big thing is that it's SaaS itself is no longer bundled, so you just install SaaS or SaaS embedded manually via npm, which gives you more control over the version. And we have all the related to that. You have all the modern things that come with it. Let me get to the correct screen. Okay, so we are missing here one slide. Apologies for that. We have Meteor 3.4. Just before this coming on this show, there was a release candidate 3 being released. I think it might be at this point released or being in the process of being released. So we are getting very close to Meteor 3.4. And that Meteor 3.4 is especially known that we have the new I could say build tool that should be also more modular, so you will hopefully in the future be able to swap it with wheat and other ones. So definitely now is the time, I would say, to give it a try and figure it out. And the third news that we see on the screen is that we have a new APM built for Meteor 3.0 called Sky Signal. So that came up in December. Let me just quickly get the news here. This was from Michael. I don't know his last name. And so yeah, they've built this APM for Meteor 3.0 that's supposed to kind of give you the same things that you have, what you had originally with Kadira and with Monte APM, but specifically for 3.0, and they plan to build up on this and expand this. So this is something I'll be watching very, very closely, and if you have questions, I recommend following the link and going to the forum discussion. So
yeah, so Michael's last name is Vogt, Vogt. Okay. Yeah.
So that is it for Meteor news. I think we'll have much more news once 3.4 is out and all the craziness that it's going to unleash, hopefully.
All right.
And that brings us to our topic, which is a review of last year. And we did had a little bit of, you could say, prediction or talks about different topics that would be big for 2025. And let me scroll to the notes here. We've talked about Astro and Bun to be kind of on the top, and you were interested in DuckDB, Alim. So
yeah, so let's start with Bun, because I mean that's an interesting one, right? Because Bun did turn out to have some legs this year, including with Anthropic making a purchase of that entire project. And now it seems that we're going to really be keeping an eye on that going forward, because one of the big LLM players has made this purchase, and there is something there. And I'm not quite sure what the there is, but there's certainly a lot of money behind it. When you throw a lot of money behind a project, you expect to see some kinds of results. So I think Bun's story captured the attention not just of us at the beginning of the year, but obviously within the capacity of building agents and getting them out there. And I think 2025 was the year of agents and AI. Whether or not it was tremendously successful or not remains to be analyzed and seen, and that's outside of my expertise right now. But certainly, Bun became part of that story. So I think that was a good prediction. I'm not quite sure about Astro, though.
Yeah, I have to say I was very skeptical of Bun. Did not believe it, so I was proven wrong on this. I strategically said nothing when we were discussing Bun back then, because but really it really got, for example, compared to Dino, I would say big players on board. And I think it's it's definitely here to stay, and it's going to play a role, and we'll discuss this I think next episode as well, about our prediction where that will go. Astro, as you mentioned, while still interesting everything, I might actually be playing with it in the near future, maybe, but it's still, as I said back then, it still does not sit for most of my project, what I would do. And I think it was kind of there, but it really didn't, it wasn't that much in the news, or didn't go anywhere, I would say, super spectacular that it would capture say our attention.
Yeah, I don't think we've done many stories about Astro this past year after I made that prediction, right? So, it really didn't come that far up the radar, And DuckDB, I mean, I thought, boy, that was going to have some legs. But, where we spent more time, and I think we've had at least 2 shows about, was FerretDB. And maybe for us, it's because that has more relevance. But again, DuckDB is one of those that I don't think has really raised its head very far. It's, for a moment, it was there. And again, we were making predictions off somebody else's predictions. And so that was sort of the constraint. But at the same time, we're batting 33% at this point, right? So, so that's where it is. We're going to keep ourselves honest and accountable. That's Bun's the only thing that really kind of came out of this, guns blazing. So
well, let's not beat around the bush. I think the biggest topic in 2025 were AI stuff and all those models we were talking about a lot. There was a lot of fears about AI replacing developers and everything. I think the Bun acquisition by Anthropic and a lot of the stories where some corporations have fired developers just only to rehire them back later. I think the prediction of that did not come true. The future still remains to be seen, but I think we are gonna started, at least towards the end of the year, we've gonna, I think, everybody started a bit settling and getting a bit more comfortable and less panicky with all the AI stuff, especially some of the latest models, which have been really improved a lot when it comes to helping with code.
Now, let me just inject something here. I mean, I think you're right that we haven't seen the mass. I mean, there've been mass layoffs at the big tech firms, and some of that has hit engineering and engineers. A lot of that has really been on marketing, HR, support functions. But what I have heard from people I've talked to is that it's getting, if you're an engineer and you got laid off, I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but there are several people that I've talked to who are finding it really, really hard getting a replacement job now. And so while there might not be massive layoffs, there used to be a sense that, well, if you got laid off from a firm, you get rehired someplace else fairly immediately. And that has not been happening. And it might be AI, but it could be a lot of other things. We have sort of a chaos economy today. So I think firms are very reluctant to go on a hiring spree because they're not quite sure exactly what things look like. So without having like clear predictability into what's going on, I mean, we do have transition in technology, right? Which is big, which is very impactful. So I think they're waiting to see that. But we also have lots of international trade being renegotiated right now. And so that creates a tremendous amount of uncertainty, and it has impact on planning. So the macroeconomic conditions, I think, are playing a big role in tamping down the sort of rehire of engineers. And I think firms also want to see just how much more lift they can get out of these tools with their existing teams. So that seems to be the trend right now. Do you see it that way, or do you see something different?
Yes, I think that I could sign under that. I think another thing kind of related, or the big thing is, and I've kind of seen it looking at some job opportunities and everything, is because in the past I was always, kind of, become an expert, in a field and find a niche where you can be expert.
Yeah.
But now with AI, it kind of looks that kind of the second part of that, become an expert in one specific field, but kind of remain the generalist outlook. I think that might be more of a thing that might be coming up, become more a generalist. And some of the jobs that I have been seeing or the offerings have been like, really you need to know ton of technologies. You need to know everything, from the initial, React, the Express Node to, Kubernetes databases, and like everything, full stack. But you need to know, super well all the CI, all the deployments, and all the different all the tools in those different fields. So
are you suggesting that there seems to be a collapse of a lot of different functional roles into a single person's role now? So instead of having a DevOps role, an operations role, a front end or in a back end role, that's all kind of being compressed?
I would say not yet, or at least not in 2025.
Okay,
it might also partially be that it's like the usual HR shopping list, just get everything on the page and hope somebody actually applies. But I think this is also kind of, from what I've heard from AI bros and other influencers, kind of sometimes that the perspective is that you kind of leave the coding and the details to the AI, while you kind of keep the general outlook and making sure everything goes together, because that's where AI is currently very deficient, you could say, to a certain degree. So knowing all these things and having the general outlook, knowing where everything is, will be more important than having expert knowledge how to implement all the details of what you're doing, which is also something that SpecGit, for example, from GitHub, is that the role of developer might be changing more towards, say, a project manager, where you, instead of coding yourself, you describe how it should be implemented, what it should do, and all the other all the other details, and then you just push it to the AI to actually implement, and then you just beat it over the head if it goes off rails. So that's something that I have been kind of seeing in the discussion. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I kind of have to, I guess, sort out my feelings for next week's predictions or next episode. And I definitely, it's AI has been the big fish, and kind of sucked a lot of air out. Anything more on that you want to add to this, Alim?
No, I think this is going to continue to be the story going forward for the year, is just how we use it. I think the question of how much I've always gone back with this generalist. I'm a generalist, right? I mean, meaning that I came to tech from a non-traditional background. My undergraduate degree is in English literature. My master's is in business, right? Management and marketing. And I've taken classes and so on in computer science, but I'm non-traditional in the sense that I don't have a computer science engineering degree, right? And I've come to this because I came into the field when it was very young, and so I've been able to get professional experience building and doing things and learning as I go. And so the strength I had when I first started was I knew the domain that I was working in, and my employer at the time wanted somebody that understood our business and could then translate that into systems. And so it was sort of like having this generalist sense of what goes on, but then really then developing like a very specialist point of view, because we had, fourth generation languages that we were using to do text processing at the time, which were not, broadly available, and we didn't have broad expertise in it. And then, I went into C programming and then all this other stuff afterwards. But my point though is that, having this is the frame I've come with. I've always thought of it as a bit of a weakness relative to the people that have this sort of traditional background in terms of computer science, because they can bring a lot of skill in terms of how to use the tooling and how to set it up and how to be efficient programmers and how to decompose problems in the right way, whatever that might be. I think the thing is, the problem we have here is the expectation. You have AI tools today that have consumed repos and language manuals and understand the syntax and the structure of languages, and can put together functional bits of code and get it out there and do a pretty good job at it. But I also remember when I was developing things and we were using things on the cutting edge, oftentimes the documentation was not representative of what the APIs and the software was actually capable of doing. And so I remember we were a very big Microsoft shop at the time, and Microsoft would say, here's a product, a site server, for instance, and these are the APIs that you can use. And it turned out that some of those were just stubbed and they didn't actually do anything. And then there were internal APIs that the development team were working with that weren't public, but we would find out about from talking to a TAM or somebody else. And then that would actually help us get somewhere with, making that product work. But those things were not documented. The AI tools today only work because of what they've been able to consume in terms of documented features and capabilities of languages and tools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the thing is, like, it's where they know what they know, but they don't necessarily know what they don't know, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't know, like, they don't know what is it? Sometimes they know what they don't know, but they're not willing to, like, stop themselves.
Yeah, they don't have the concept of known unknowns that we humans have. So that's definitely something big.
So there's some limit there. Now, I think that when any professional is developing, there needs. I think that the notion that we've heard is like, we don't need junior developers anymore. I think the definition of what a junior developer is changes now with these tools, right? Because you can come in, and if you have a good product sense, or if you have a good sense of what it is that you want to accomplish, and you understand how software works, which takes time to understand when you're building software, what you have to let it know and what you can just assume it will know. That is all. And in a lot of ways, many of us working with these LLM tools are all junior developers again, because we're learning how to tell it to do what we need it to do and how to get the results that we need to get from it.
Yeah,
And
I would say, kind of like from this perspective, I have learned a lot about, you could say, how to speak with potentially speak with like junior developers or other people on the team through this, because then, because with AI you have the immediate feedback. If you say it, if you're missing something, you said it improperly, it will not do what you actually want. So it was more like, for me learning, how do I actually properly translate what I have in here into reality, and that changes how I'm writing issues and everything else.
The thing that's also going to be very interesting is because the makers of these tools are trying to make it a little easier for us to get what we want. The nature of prompting is also changing. And as that evolves, like how you interact with it is going to be somewhat different than maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Maybe 3 years ago, you had to be super explicit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, you can kind of like create a context, inject that context in, or have it pre-injected because this is a particular LLM runtime that is tuned for developers, right? So it has some assumptions already built into its context, so that then you can kind of like, instead of having to make that frame in order to get the code that you want, it's already there, right? I think these things are going to have a significant impact on all of us. The younger folks coming in, I think the ones that are what would be typically junior programmers, I think what's going to be is the new definition of junior programmer is going to be, you can actually build something complex with this, but maybe you don't know why it works, language-wise that way, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you don't understand what the limitations are. Maybe you don't understand where you might hit a Stack Overflow by doing something, with allocating maybe you're using a product or a language that you have to do your own memory allocation and freeing up and management, or maybe there are times where you're doing something and the stacks can go there, but you can actually, even though it does automatic garbage collection, you can actually trigger garbage collection. And so if you're doing something and you're using a particular paradigm, that's something that you're going to have to handle yourself because,
So would you say that's kind of something that kind of we've learned in 25?
I think that's the way it's going to go. And I think, the fact that you could build things that look expert, the truth of the matter is the debugging part is still going to be hard. I mean, even good developers sometimes have a hard time debugging things effectively.
Well, debugging was always annoying.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, understanding your runtime, understanding the language, understanding its limitations, understanding those things, understanding how to I think it's going to be very helpful in doing stack traces, right? Those are one of the things that are really pain in the ass sometimes. Well, I'll tell you something that I've noticed. I have noticed people over the years putting into Stack Overflow or into the forums, like, here's a stack trace. I don't know what's going on. And right at the top, it's just like, start working from the top down. Sometimes it tells you exactly where to go next. And just do that, and that'll get you someplace. And maybe you don't understand what that message is or what it's saying or what the implication is.
Yeah.
But often in well-produced stack traces, and that's on the team that develops the APIs and the debugging messages that go back, there is enough information for you to work with, provided that you understand something about the environment that you're in. Mm-hmm. But that's on you. That's on you to get that experience and to get that knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think this is where, you can get fast to building something and putting it out there and it looks good and so on, but maybe the pieces don't come together as well as you think it is, right? And maybe it will be better. I don't know. I don't know yet.
Well, let's think about it, and next episode we'll see what we think about what the next year is going to bring. I want to move on to something that has been, I would say, a topic before AI sucked out of all of the air remaining of the year, and I think this was mostly meaning we had a lot of development and excitement around wheat.
I thought you were going to say suck the joy out of
as well. But we had Void Zero coming on the scene, which kind of unites all the Vite stuff and is trying to build a new building system. Build tools and bundling tools have been the issue this year in Meteor as well. And once again, we have to mention Bun. I think Bun came out. Then there was maybe a part of us also as a reaction, Void Zero. And Bun kind of also then started building its own more advanced build tools, bundling tools, starting competing with Vite as well. So that has been, I think there's been a lot of progress on that. I think we'll soon, or if you haven't already played with it in Meteor, we'll kind of play with that as well. Not with these two, but with different tools in that ecosystem. So that's definitely, I think, something that was impactful this year as well. And for Alim, anything that you want to add on this?
I don't really know very much, so no, I don't think I could constructively add anything. Thank you.
So I'll finish this off with the Meteor. As I mentioned already, we had a lot of hype and work around the build tool, all that stuff. And I would say, especially towards the end of the year, or even earlier in mid of the year, we started having much more, I would say, fun with memes. And if you remember my closing at Impact, kind of went into the Warhammer 40K and the technology related to that. And I think that might be, especially given that how we are outsourcing everything to the AIs, that might to a certain degree become more of a reality where we, the holy machine and let us please produce for us this thing. I think that might be one of the futures, but I'll kind of leave that, I think, as a bonus at the end for the next episode, more on this. So, and I think that's kind of something we need more to have a bit more fun around technology back.
I'm actually surprised at just how alive this thread is. It's somebody's always putting something in, and actually, I would say sometimes it's a lot of Lori that's putting stuff in, which is great.
I need to add more, and I think we should also start looking at this and start kind of doing memes with AI, because some of the memes to some of the recent geopolitical situations, they were just absolutely hilarious, and I think we should kind of start doing more of them with for our technology as well. We kind of provide the joy when it comes to the AI generation tools with images and memes to the rest of the world, and I think we should do more of them ourselves.
Oh my goodness. I'm looking at one of the last ones. Problems talking about can't proceed, and so whip the horse. The obvious solution is to add more horses, whip them to get them out. The corporate solution is to add more people into the cart and whip the one horse. And the startup solution is to just get on the horse and leave the cart behind.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah, I need to contribute as well with this. So let's, and with that, I think wanting to have more fun. That's all I have. Anything else to close this up, Alim?
No, I think that's it. By the way, we are reevaluating, how often we're going to be doing this, and how long we're going to be doing this this program for. So we are expecting to do another episode in 3 weeks? Is that it, or 2 weeks? What date did we say? Let's tell the people so that way they can plan.
I can do next week. It will have to be next week, because then I'm flying off.
Yeah, no, I think we said we're going to do the 30th, right?
No, definitely not, Alim.
Oh no, not the 30th.
I think we said next week, and then we have
next.
2 weeks
That's
off.
right. We said next week, and then okay. All right. So our next show will be next week, next Friday. We've gone back to our Friday schedule because of complications. So real life is hitting me in certain ways. I might share and talk about that another time, but we're heading back to that for now. So flying off into the sunset. So we have Harry in the maybe, if I get my wings, woo, I'll be flying.
Yeah, well, I'll be flying into an exotic location for my friend's wedding. So in a way that I will be enjoying a lot of sunsets. Maybe I'll make a quick video from there as well or something like that. But at the same time, I am not, kind of that I want to annoy you with my once a year vacation and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and no, this time it's not Japan. It's something that came very last, and it will be in the American sphere of influence, closer home.
American sphere.
That's where I kind of leave it. It's for security purposes, you could say. That's kind of where I leave it for now.
That's America can be exotic depending on where you are. Hey, I see by the way the facial hair.
Yeah.
I think this is in response to, I made a comment maybe a long time ago, I don't know how long ago it was, that that Jan looks perpetually like a teenager, and I think this is his way of saying, no, I'm a man.
Yeah,
and proving conclusively that he has gone way beyond puberty at this point. It's like, this is this is the real stuff. So it looks good on you.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can keep it, given my future ambitions with Japan, and also me flying abroad, because I don't have that in my passport. I don't think that should be a problem, but somebody told me that it might be a problem.
Really?
We shall see. But at the same time, I also have glasses in my passport. So
okay, because I was going to say that this would go well with like samurai outfit. It's like it's a good look.
Well, who knows? We'll see what
or John Wick.
And here we go with the memes. I think I might make something out of this.
All right, guys, listen. Thanks for joining us again today, and we hope that you got something useful out of this, something informative. If you would like to put some notes in the comments, let us know that you're around, you appreciate what we're doing, and let us know your thoughts, and we will respond to them. Otherwise, I will say have a great weekend. See you next time. Bye.